Hmm. Oh, hello. Oh my goodness, technical things, not necessarily difficulties, experiences. Well, I hope this is working. This will be the benefit in the future of when I start going live publicly. Right now, I do it just to make videos and then as a form of recording them. All right. In the future, it'll be good for me to be like, hey, can people hear me? Okay. I think this is working. Okay. I noticed a lot of stories going through my head this morning. Um, I've been feeling overall very good, feeling really in my body today. Sometimes it's more noticeable, sometimes less. Today I'm really kind of really feeling it, which is nice. Might have something to do with me having gotten sleep. Um, some of the stories that I noticed coming up have been just things from my past. It's been part of what I'm noticing right now is the letting go of stories as I have allowed them to define me in the past. So, for the longest time, I needed, I would have shame come up around something, and then I would need, let me see if I can reduce this glare. It would help me, nope. It would help me to remember my past, to explain and rationalize why I can let go of the shame around having done something or having thought a certain way. Um, so shame would come up, and I'd be like, oh, okay, my story is that of, someone who comes from trauma or comes from a place where I didn't feel safe. And so that's why my nervous system is wired to react this way, and that's okay, and I'm fine. So I'd have to do this. Sometimes I'd be comparing myself to someone else and say, like, oh, well, why can't I behave the way they do or be as open as they are or something like that? And I'd have to do this, like, oh, it's because of this. And then, like, some resentment would come in there of, like, well, they didn't have to go through this. And so all these things. So the story of past trauma, the things that came up this morning that I'm making this video is to help me release these more completely. Coming from trauma and feeling unsafe, coming from growing up in this country as a Jew and an immigrant and a child of immigrants, and in poverty, more or less. American poverty is, well, our poverty, I guess, was pretty bearable. Certainly wasn't the worst off from things that I've heard people been through, people go through. And growing up being autistic and all these things, neurodivergence and ADD, which was the least of my worries. All of these stories have been, up to this point, held dearly by me. to help me forgive myself, really, and to remember that it's okay to be who I am based on a lot of things that weren't within my control. Um, and it's very nice right now in this moment with all the things I've been introduced to within really the last month. October was packed. Um, Yesterday was Halloween, so it's marked the end. Um, the value of these stories has been to restate. Right now, these stories are only as valuable as something that I can recognize, hold space for as much as it needs it, and then to let it go. It's very liberating to be in this space right now where these stories are ready to be given a break. Um, the voices that I've been hearing from the different podcasts and YouTube channels that I've come across this month, these are voices of people who've been through similar things. And so I've been feeling more heard and I guess more safe and less resistant to letting go of these stories because I see an example now of people who, they don't come from blissful places and they saying, hey, bliss is easy, look. They come from hard places. And I realize it's part of why there is value in this publicly sharing myself because I have benefited from others sharing themselves. And so now I know that these stories that I hold, they are so widespread that I am, on the one hand, unique and amazing and beautiful, like every single individual is. And on the other hand, I'm not alone. These stories are not, even though every story is different, these stories are not this secret that no one can know. These are things that have happened to so many people, that so many people know inside themselves and outside through stories. And I'm, again, thankful for living in an age where these things are so widely talked about now that I can let them go as not necessarily needing to be mine. This is our story, the story of hardship, the story of joy. And I can let them go and live in my body and in my life and in my present without, having said goodbye eventually, having put down and said goodbye to all of these stories that live, I could say live in the past, but really live in my mind. And I keep bringing them into the present to justify where I'm at instead of just being okay with where I'm at without needing justification. Um, these stories have been useful to me for me to process and come to terms with myself. And it's nice to be in a place where I can let them go and not identify as someone who has been through this or someone who has a certain, status in America or like who's been through certain things. What I'm think what I'm thankful for is that because I've been through different kinds of things and been in different kinds of places in life, I my ears are more nuanced and I can connect with people who have experienced different things without feeling uncomfortable because I know what it feels like to be in different places in life. Um, so these stories can become they can melt away, and what can be left is who I am, um, and what I can offer, and the space that I can hold for myself and for others. Um, as if you've seen other videos of mine, I'm getting better and better at holding space for others and not so much needing to fill space with myself or my story or what I'm struggling with or what I'm good at, um, or how great I am. So I wanted to share that and things that are coming up that I guess I judge them retrospectively as not useful, but they're coming up, so it means they need to be heard. Um, so these stories from my not so recent past, and then also the story that keeps coming up that's very poignant is the story about my ex-husband, because I have to. That feels like it's in the present because I'm co-parenting with him, and so this anger comes up about the effects of how I'm accommodating, and my child, without having agreed to it, is accommodating his need for whatever story is in his head about how he's co-parenting, that everything's great and fine. And that's my biggest challenge right now is that story. Um, with these practices of presence, I feel like in my wiser moments, I know that things are as they are. I'm reluctant to say they're okay as they are, but um, they are what they are right now. And I know just as things have changed within my recent history, things will change as they need to. Um, and there are certain things that I can do to support my daughter. I'm looking for a therapist for her, maybe an art therapist, because I did get advice that would be good for her. Things like that. Ways in which I can move within what's going on without taking drastic action of some sort without, if I'm doing anything with anger, I know that there's like wisdom that's lacking there. So that's something that I'm confronting as a story. And whenever I do allow for that story of anger to kind of run, um, I recognize that it needs that space. And if I buy into it, I kind of look back at that of like, okay, I did that, okay. But sometimes I'm able not to stop before I run away with myself and say, okay, that's a story, that's anger. Where is that in my body? How about we sit with that? And um, yeah, that's the story that's going to be the hardest to put down right now. But I wanted to share that also in as part of kind of the process of sharing and allowing for things. Um, it's great to be in my body today because I can check in for what is touching me when it comes to like what am I focusing on? What emotions are coming up? What brings tears? What brings resistance? Um, and today I feel open enough to give attention to some of those things and to let them live and move in my body as they need to. so that I can let them go or let things develop as they need to with wisdom without trying to drive something that comes from the wrong place of like, I need to do something about this. But instead to say, I need to create space for whatever this is to develop the way that it needs to. Um, it has been nice recently to just focus on being there for my daughter and not allowing anger and like nerve induced states to stand in the way of peace and peaceful and loving interaction with her. I've been better at that. So, yeah. And as I'm saying all this, I'm noticing, feelings in my body, like the muscles in my back are kind of breathing and widening. And there's energy that's kind of moving between my back and my hips and my legs. And right now, everywhere. I'm talking about it. So it's like, oh, um, it hears its name. um, so I'm looking forward to continuing to be in my body today, allowing for energies to move as they need to. And spending time with my daughter after I pick her up from school. It'll be nice. Thanks for listening.